Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. This chapter has left me speechless. Now, I'm going to give a massive spoiler warning, but considering Jujutsu Kaisen and Gojo were trending at #1 in like 30 different countries, you've probably already heard the news, and that's why I put it in the thumbnail. But basically, at the end of this chapter, we see a sudden appearance of Gojo. And I have no idea if this actually means he's back, and it's not in fact Gojova. Because, I mean, there's plenty of theories that suspect this isn't actually him, but we can never be too sure with what Gege is planning since his writing is so unpredictable. It's honestly hilarious to me that just as Gojo fans started to give up, and posts about him coming back every single chapter started to die down, suddenly Gege pulls the shit and reignites an entire fandom that has broken the internet. Also, another thing to note is that Sukuna can't actually use his curse technique very well after his domain expansion, so Yuji and Toto have the best chance of defeating him in this window. But now with that out of the way, let's get into the new chapter 260, which is now part 32 of the Shinjuku battle. And it starts off with Toto unwrapping the bandages and revealing his new arm, which is actually in fact a Vibra slap. The Vibra slap is basically a percussion instrument of a piece of stiff wire connecting a ball to a hollow box that has metal teeth inside. The musician would then hold the metal wire in one hand and strike the ball, vibrating the metal teeth and making noise. Now, people have said that this is basically super stupid and silly for the final fight against Sukuna, but I completely disagree because it's Toto. This just fits his personality so well and would definitely be something he'd do. Now, Toto's Vibra slap is already connected to his missing arm, so all he'll need to do is slap the ball with the other hand. And as we find out later, that is exactly how he activates his Boogie Woogie. But before we see that, we also see both Yuji and Sukuna realize what it is at the exact same time, which could be an example of what Toto was talking about in the last chapter, that they both have a certain resonance and could subconsciously reveal information to the other, because I don't know if Sukuna would actually know what a Vibra slap is. The narrator then explains that with the arm now replaced, Toto had to change the activation for his technique from applause to the collision between the ball and the box, which actually makes him so overpowered because the narrator then goes on to say he can swap roughly 50 times in a single second. This is Toto's technique on steroids. And with that, Toto slaps the Vibra slap and immediately Sukuna, Yuji and Toto start swapping countless times in just that split second. All three of them recognize exactly what's happening, and it's said to basically be like a roulette of swapping, which I cannot wait to see animated. Toto suddenly grabs the box to stop them swapping, and both Yuji and Sukuna get ready to strike each other. However, Toto just hits the Vibra slap again, and they swap once more, allowing Yuji and Toto to land a heavy hit on Sukuna, which completely surprises him.
Oh my god, he on X Games mode.
The narrator then explains that Toto imposed a binding vow which can limit the number of swaps in proportion to the number of collisions of the Vibra slap. His ability can now also affect multiple targets as well as having an expanded range. And this means he can basically control the amount of swaps in a given time with as many people as he wants to swap and from varying distances, which makes his power just so much more OP than ever before. We also learn that after training with Yuta within the Lake Gosho colony, which is actually the same colony that Kenjaku and Takaba fought in, Toto managed to gain enough skills to be able to retrieve all of the allies that were trapped within Malevolent Shrine. Thank you so much. And everyone can now breathe a sigh of relief because we know that Maki, Miwa and Ino are now safe, particularly Maki, who everyone was most worried about. And this again just reiterates that you shouldn't trust all the leaks you see because the one that claimed Maki was incinerated was just blatantly wrong. Sukuna, Toto and Yuji continue to swap multiple times again, and Sukuna thinks to himself that Toto is the most self-centered of the sorcerers and even recognizes just how powerful he is by saying that Toto has appeared exactly when he least wanted him to. Sukuna then jumps into a heavily ruined part of Shinjuku, and both Toto and Yuji follow him. Toto then suddenly swaps with Sukuna, so now he's the one below, and he aims a kick, but Sukuna manages to dodge out of the way. Toto then notes that Sukuna can dodge in midair, so now he knows he can do that, he can work on countermeasures, and Yuji then infuses a rock with cursed energy, and still seeming to have only one eye, flings it directly towards Sukuna. The rock is immediately swapped out with Yuji, who just drop kicks Sukuna, all while Toto just swaps him again into a more confined part of the ruins. But Sukuna isn't going down easy and grabs Yuji's face, aiming to throw him away. However, Toto notices this and just swaps their positions again, so Yuji is now in front of Sukuna, and he doesn't waste any time landing a rib jab straight away. Toto is also following suit, smacking the Vibra slap again. They then trade places multiple times and have this really awesome standoff where they just stare at each other all while they're swapping. Which kind of reminds me of the scene in the anime when Mahoraga and Sukuna were stood squaring off against each other while flying through the air. I do think Gege has taken a lot of inspiration from the anime animators, which just makes the fight a lot better because their ideas were absolutely incredible. Sukuna then realizes that Toto can swap as much or as little as he wants with just one tap, and Sukuna actually admits that this will make adapting to Boogie Woogie essentially impossible. However, there is one single instance where he can definitely read Toto's timing. But before we find out what, Toto hits the Vibra Slap again and Yuji punches Sukuna through a pillar. The roof of the structure comes crumbling down, but Yuji and Toto are unfazed as they chase after Sukuna. However, this is where Sukuna reveals his idea of when Toto will swap, and it's when Yuji's focus starts to sharpen even more. He recognizes their movements, and as Toto begins to ready his Vibra Slap, Sukuna realizes that he's going to go for a feint. And the flashback that Sukuna is reminded of is when Toto tricked Mahito back in Shibuya, and with this knowledge, he aims to strike him here and now. Yuji also readies his fist with cursed energy, and just before the feint is about to happen, something is swapped. And it's one of Meimei's crows, which swoops in low behind Sukuna and distracts his attention. Sukuna suddenly thinks to himself that he must have swapped with the crow and realizes he misread Toto's move. And he immediately turns around ready to strike behind him, and Toto then hits the Vibra Slap. However, they didn't actually swap with the crow, and while Sukuna kicks the bird, Yuji is still beside him with a fistful of cursed energy. Sukuna realizes too late, and Toto brags that it was 3 levels of deception, proving that his 530,000 level IQ may not actually be too far off. But with that, Yuji lands a deadly black flash directly into Sukuna's chest. However, Yuji isn't finished and digs his claw hands into Sukuna's chest, which makes blood spurt from his mouth. Yuji though continues to tear away into his heart and screams out while doing it with pure seething hatred for Sukuna. With absolutely no other choice, Sukuna seems to use the hand signs to activate his domain, and the narrator then explains that even though Sukuna's curse energy output has dropped to Yuta's level, but due to Sukuna's incredible efficiency, if he were to recover his burnt out technique by destroying and recreating that part of his brain, he could then utilize domain expansion as many times as needed. And just to clarify things clearly, the reason he couldn't use his domain expansion anymore before was because he was still suffering from infinite void, not because he himself couldn't use Malevolent Shrine as many times as he wanted to. But now, getting back into the chapter, this is the moment you've been waiting for. This is the exact moment that sent the entire fandom into a frenzy.
Oh my god! Okay, it's happening! Everybody stay calm! What's the procedure, everyone?
Just as Sukuna is about to open his domain, him or someone else states the words domain expansion, and Sukuna notices something in the distance. He then turns to look at a figure emerging from the smoke, and we see white hair and an unmistakable set of eyes staring right back at him. And the narrator then explains that what befell Sukuna was a vision of a man he had buried with his own hands, the departed spirit of the strongest. But the chapter ends right there with no more information given. But with no break next week, this is going to be the longest week known to man. I can already tell the internet is going to be feral over this week, anxiously waiting for the next chapter. But I don't know if this genuinely means Gojo is back. I will do a separate video where I delve into most, if not all of the theories about his return, and that should come out this weekend, so be sure to subscribe. but I'll just quickly go over the main ideas here and now. People in Japan have speculated that it was not Sukuna who stated domain expansion, but rather someone else, leading people to believe that this depiction of Gojo was the one who said it, meaning he's physically there. Other ideas involve body swapping, maybe including Uiwi's powers, or even a disguise-like curse technique, but this is stretching into the realm of impossibility because on the other side of the coin, people do think he's dead and that this is just a vision. I mean, the translations themselves have been consistently calling him a ghost spirit and just a vision that Sukuna is seeing. Maybe similar to visions that appeared like when Sukuna killed Kashimo and Choso's end in the last chapter. Most people are under the impression that this is a self-inflicted vision, with maybe even Sukuna being closer to death than we realized, which will distract Sukuna long enough for Yuji to do irreversible damage. But then again, this is all speculation because at the end of the day, Gege is an incredibly unpredictable writer who writes things on a whim and loves to abuse his fans, so we'll unfortunately just have to wait and find out in the next chapter. Be sure to watch my next video, which will cover all the theories related to Gojo's potential return. It's now coming to the end of the video, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I'm so happy you stopped by. My channel is steadily growing, and I'm amazed at the support I'm getting. And I also have a Patreon now, so feel free to support me however you like. The link will be in the description, and I will shout out names at the end of each video. Thank you again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.